The Funny One by Raylene Smith of Ashbury, 2193. Narrated by Janine Penfold. My father was an educator first and foremost, so, although it was unusual for the era, the man believed in empowering his daughter. I was 10 years younger than my sister, and my brother was 6 years older. With the older two at school, both parents had more time for me as a child. My mother coddled me, clinging on to her last baby, while Dad trained a conversation partner, opened my mind to worldly pursuits, current affairs and politics. He'd forged his career during a turbulent historic period for improving rights and conditions for teachers. By the time I was 13, he was finding more work-life balance before it was a branded lifestyle choice. He was simply weary of the grind, but remained inspired to teach and learn. He found in me a willing participant with more motivation to be found in intellectual pursuits than wearing pink and making the most of my features under Mum's guidance. A natural affiliation for sports wrapped in unconditional love from Mum and a precocious product of broad conversations with Dad gave me a misplaced confidence that remained incomprehensibly but steadfastly throughout an adolescence riddled with acne and a sheltered lack of worldly experience. I grew up in the suburbs, never caught a train or went beyond the local shopping centre. We holidayed back in Mum's country hometown. Being the youngest, there were about 6 years where all siblings and cousins had moved to the city, and I had to find ways to amuse myself for 12 weeks of every year. I wasn't cool. I was gangly, not pretty. I couldn't surf. I didn't care. Mostly. I grew up believing I could be anything. To be brutally honest, this primarily manifested itself in focusing on not becoming a teacher like everyone else in the family. To make my way, I became quick-witted, sporty and sassy. To establish my mission to not become a teacher, I began studying to be an occupational therapist. Naturally, I knew next to nothing in first year. But when my sister had a baby with a severe disability, I knew enough to know milestones weren't being met. As the only health professional in the family, I went with my sister and her husband to specialist appointments to explain the observations that led to my concerns. When the terminal diagnosis was confirmed, I watched my family fall apart. At just 17, it became obvious that I had a role. I stayed in the background, provided research, continued to see doctors with my sister, supported Mum, intellectualised with Dad, told my brother his poetry was cathartic for everyone. The sadness lived within every corner and waking moment of home life with Mum. It was oppressive. While she never forgave me for leaving home at 18, I had to escape the suffocating weight just so I could stay afloat and be what my family needed. My sister and the baby were constant. He died at 9 months of age of a rare neuromuscular disorder. She had another baby who died at 6 months of cancer. The living oldest child was starting to demonstrate disturbing traits at school and was eventually diagnosed with multiple intellectual disabilities. My role in the family continued and expanded as I forged my own professional life, influenced in no small part by a search for answers and solutions to ease a difficult and unending situation. The sadness and daily trials became a way of life and all-consuming. For years, I provided laughter, an anecdote, an observation, an impression, anything to splinter the prevailing sorrow. To them, I was the funny smart one who provided the only laughs to be had. My role most definitely included not to cause any trouble. This didn't mean I didn't have or cause any trouble. It simply meant I didn't share my life with my family, as there was no room for anything more. If I didn't provide laughter, I would only make a bad situation worse. In leaving home, I made my way out of the sheltered suburbs and found a chosen family who witnessed the trouble I did encounter and guided me through the pitfalls of youth. It was a double life, where my family was so distracted by tragedy, they never noticed I grew up without them. The end.